Okay, we are live right now for another beautiful conversation. I have been making posts about this since morning about how to write an award-winning manuscript. I'm an author of 11 books, 11 printed, published books, and I can tell you for a fact that is always a thing of joy that people tend to flock around when I go to different cities and I sell my books and I sign my autograph. It's such a beautiful thing. Okay, so we are live right now, and I want to notify other people that we are live. So it's just give me a little bit, a few seconds to notify people that we are live right now on the timeline. I'm wondering why I'm not able to see the live stream on my timeline. I don't know if it's network. It could be a network issue. Mm, minutes. Okay, I've gotten the link. Mm, okay, Ma, I've sent you the link on your messenger so you can send it to them to join us live. Okay, I think I'm seeing a few people who are joining us live right now. So we're going to be looking at how to write an award-winning manuscript. Okay, an award-winning manuscript. As I said, it's a thing of joy for me when I go to different cities and people buy my books and I sign my autograph. It always starts when you are able to write a script that is amazing, a manuscript that is amazing. And today, I have in the conversation this evening, I have Chigozie Mbadoa, who is going to be teaching us how to write award-winning manuscripts. Chigozie, I don't know if you've seen the link. You can send it to them so that they can join us directly through the link I sent you now. Have you seen it?
Yes, I've seen
Okay.
it. I'm just forwarding it now.
Okay. So tell them to click that one and join us directly. Okay. Mhm. They're still clicking the former one. They're
Oh
still
dear,
clicking the former.
sorry. Okay,
Okay. If you've sent it to them, let's go ahead. Let them.
okay.
Okay, people. If you are joining us, please drop your name in this comment section. Let's know. What's your name? Let's know your name in the comment section. Let's also know where you are tuning in from, and we can say hello to you. All right. Click. Let's know where you are tuning in from. Let's know where you're tuning in from. All right. Let's know where you're tuning in from, your name, and what you do. Please tell them to click this one, the one I just sent to you. Send it in the WhatsApp group. Let them click it and join, and not the former one to come at the back end. Okay. All right, ma.
Okay.
So we have to go ahead on the live stream. Okay, Uche Jeffrey from London. You're welcome. You're welcome. Go tag your friends. Tell them to be part of what we are doing, part of this conversation. Tell them to be part of the conversation and join us on this live stream. Okay, let's know where you're tuning in from, guys. All right, so I'm ready for you, Chigozie. Please let's introduce yourself and dive into the conversation, into the teaching for today, how to write an award-winning manuscript. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Emeka. Great to see you again on this platform, a different one. My name is Chigozie Mbadura. I'm an author, and I think I'd like to call myself an accidental author because I started off just writing because I love reading, and basically that's how my journey began. Um, I've written this book, How to Win an Award-Winning Manuscript, largely because when I started off, there was a lot of trial and error for me. I had very little guidance. I knew virtually no authors. So I had nobody to sort of communicate with, nobody to guide me, nobody to interact with at the initial stage. So I made a lot of mistakes, but over time, I linked up with people, and what have experienced, or what I want to share tonight, are things that I wish I knew when I started off my writing journey 8 years ago. Um, I first wrote my first unpublished book when I was 6. So I've always loved to write. It was, for me, it was good to escape from things happening around me, just get into this fictional world. And I've loved writing fiction. So I delved into this on my own, and basically I winged it. That's the way I'll put it. I winged it, and I had to make lots of sacrifices to write, because I had a full-time job as a doctor, and I was a mother of young children. I had to do school run and all of that, but it was a passion that kept me. I fully understand what Emeka says here about um, the feeling that you have when you finish the manuscript, when you pick it up in print, when you go somewhere and people say, "Oh, sign it for me." There's nothing that can make up for that. It's absolutely amazing. So that passion drove me. So after a while, I thought about it and I said, how do I give back what I've learned? How do I let people not go through what I went through? How do I let people have some degree of guidance along the line? And that's why I wrote this book, How to Win an Award, How to Write an Award-Winning Manuscript. Strangely enough, my books have won several awards. I've won or been nominated or shortlisted for several awards. And I'm a deeply religious person, so I'll just say that I will not eliminate the God factor in all of this. Because some of the contests I entered for, I may just be scrolling and, oh, see a contest. Okay, which story do I have? Which book do I have that falls into this, that I can submit for this contest? Most of it wasn't planned. And I'll submit, I'll say, okay, write a short story, and I'll write, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is not bad, all right. So I learned a few things along the way, and so I've put together a book. This is my first non-fiction book, titled How to Write an Award-Winning Manuscript, regardless of your genre or the niche that you're writing for. And I'm hoping that it's got a workbook, it's available on Seller. I'm hoping that this will help people. The first question I wrote in the first chapter of that book is, why do you write? You've got to identify the why before you identify the how to write or who you're writing for. Why are you writing? What's the reason why you want to write? I started off writing because I wanted a world that I could control. There are lots of things in life that are out of control, things that just happen. You know how we say in Nigeria, life happens. So life happens to all of us. And I needed a space where I could, play around with characters. And I wanted to be a voice for the voiceless. The first book I wrote, titled Beyond the Trial, has won about 3 awards. And it was a collection of short stories. And each story was, the main character was a female protagonist. And there were 3 novellas, and all of them went through a lot. People always ask me, were you writing about yourself? Incidentally, the stories in those the plot in those 3 stories were not me. You know how they say that fact is stranger than fiction. I'm still trusting God for the courage to write about myself, about the things that I've been through, the things that I am going through, and hoping that that will inspire and encourage someone. But for what it's worth, the things I've written about are stories of women who went through bad widowhood practices, all of that. And people walk up to me and they say, "Oh, this was my story. This was my experience," and that's so exciting. How do you write an award-winning manuscript? I would say, first of all, that I didn't start off wanting writing for any award. I just started off telling a story. But like Emeka said at the introduction, the what gives you an open door is an excellent book. I didn't say perfect book. There's actually no perfect book. There's because there's always room for improvement. But a plot that people can resonate with, characters that are believable for fiction, and a storyline that is relatable. And basically, that's what I did in the stories I've written that won awards. So I would say that I write because of passion. It's good to make money on the side, and so I write because of passion. How do you write an award-winning manuscript? You've got to put your best leg forward. I had written Beyond the Trial. I was ready to go to press. And somehow, one of our directors, one of my big mummies, another consultant in ophthalmology, saw the book and said, "Oh, my mother-in-law, right? Can she look at your book?" I said, "Oh, yes, please." And God just opened the door for Mafibia Nukundikpe, who is the author of Brighter Grammar and one of the authors of Practical English, to read my manuscript. And she writes to fiction as well. I said, "Oh, my dear one, do not send this to the print yet. I need to correct some things." And we had this long conversation on the phone, and she had a lot of corrections to make. I'd like to say that to write an award winning manuscript, you must be able to listen to readers, to other authors. You must get feedback. And so I got feedback from her. And I went ahead and published. I got other feedback from readers. I remember my cousin reading it and she didn't know the words for it, but she read one portion and said, "Oh, Chigozie, wait, you see this portion? This character is not supposed to know what that character is thinking," and she was talking about a point of view error. I didn't take that as a slight. I took that constructive criticism. And I went back to work on that book, and I had another edition come out with a different cover and all of that. Aside from that, when you're reading a book you've written or a story you've written, it's easy not to see the errors in it, because you're reading it and you're thinking, "Oh yeah, this is what I wrote," but that's not what's on paper. So it's important to have a beta reader team or a book launch team or an editorial team. It can be family and friends initially, but I would suggest that you give your book to a professional editor. If you read Emeka Nobis's books, I don't know if he uses, I'm sure he does. You will look for error. Look. You will not find, because most of them are not there. You may occasionally stumble on one or two in any book, even mine. But then it's almost flawless, and that's so crucial when you want an award winning when you want to write an award winning manuscript. It's got to be properly edited. And I'd like to say that please do not take a half written book and give an editor. It's a waste of time. I do editing jobs, and people send me manuscript. I'm like, "This is not fully written. Please do your homework, finish your work so that I can do mine." Because if the editor is proofreading and doing correcting things that you as an author could have done, you're wasting time, and you won't get the right kind of feedback that you would have gotten. So to write an award-winning manuscript, first of all, identify why you're writing. Why are you writing? All of these things are in this manuscript that I've written, in this text that I've written, my first nonfiction book. It's available on Seller. Why are you writing? Identify why you are writing. And who are you writing for? What's your target audience? Where will you find your target audience when you've written them? I started off writing young adult books, and somewhere along the line, maybe it's the children in my house. So, in fact, they say I should pay them royalty for inspiring me to write children's books, and we're still quarreling over that one. And so I started writing children's books, and they love it, and they are my first critic. And they're like, "Oh, mommy, this one, this, that." And so I also give it to other people. I've got friends who have children. I say, please, can your children and all the lovely little people in your house, can they read this for me? And I've got awesome feedback from children because that's my target audience. I know people worry about intellectual property, but I'm sure there are people around you that you can trust to look at that book. After you have corrected all that you know to do, all that your family and friends know to do, all that you know to do, please find a professional editor and give the person. There's nothing like a fresh pair of eyes on a manuscript. After you've gone through your editorial and you're good to go and all of that, you need to sit back. Sometimes I put aside a story for a while, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and just let it rest. And then I go back, I revisit it, and I look at the plot. Okay, does this make sense? Do I need a subplot there? Is this scene moving this story forward? Could I do without this scene? Is this crucial to the story arc or to the plot that I'm writing about? Should I take this out? What's unnecessary here? And then I do that. It's difficult for you to self-edit because a lot of times we treat our books like babies. You're holding on to it. I don't want this chapter. Oh, I like this character too much. Oh, but sometimes there are things that need to go. And that's the job of a professional editor to tell you this does not work. I'm not feeling this storyline. I'm not feeling this plot. Can we tweak it a bit? And I'd like to say something. A lot of people, when they write, are in a hurry to publish. I'm never in a hurry to publish. I take my time. I've had contests I wanted to enter for, and I've written stories, and I feel this is not good enough. I'm not submitting this. No, so I don't bother. I wait till next year. I wait till the next entry. There may even be a totally different contest. I've got lots of half-written short stories that are waiting to be submitted somewhere, but I'm not in a hurry. Once you do something in a hurry, you're likely to make mistakes. So it's crucial to do a good job because I've actually bought a book. I started reading it. I bought two books at a fair. I read it, first chapter, second chapters. In fact, some of them from the back, you're already seeing errors. I said, no, can't read this anymore. And the first thing that crossed my mind was, please, didn't someone look at this book? I read the second book, same person, same laden with errors. I couldn't, it was a children's book. I couldn't give my children those books to read. I actually bin them. And that's painful. And that's what happens when we do half written work. When we do works that are not thorough. Your leg cannot cross the door. People start off and they're like, what's this? What's this? And that's where it stops. So if you've submitted a manuscript for an award or to a literary agent or to somebody to read or a contest, and they won't even finish reading that thing. They won't. So please, who are we writing for? Why is our target audience important? Our target audience is important because there are things that are peculiar to each audience. I've written young adult books, I've written adult books, and I've written children's books. When I write for children, the language needs to be something they can relate to. I know I usually put a glossary, but the words, I can't be speaking very big grammar when I'm writing for a 7-year-old because I personally will not read a book that there are some books, so very lovely books, so I don't know, that for each page that you read, your dictionary has to be beside you. I'm a lazy reader. I like to read it's not a textbook now. I've gone to school, I've done medical school, I've tried. So why would I want to be using a dictionary to understand something that I came from the stress of living in Lagos and I want to relax and unwind with? And I'm having to check meanings of words for every sentence. So the vocabulary has to be appropriate for the age that you're writing for. And then for children, illustrations are a big deal. If you write text for children, they just, "Ah, mommy, please don't buy this book." Mm-mm. And the interesting thing about writing for children, you have two target audiences. You've got two totally different groups of people that you're writing for. One, the child, and the mother or the father who's going to pay for that book. They'll just say bye bye, and the mother you didn't write it for the mother or the father, or the uncle or the auntie, but they're the ones looking through the books, skimming through the books to decide if this is something they want to spend their hard-earned money on. So the book has got to be something that will resonate, or that the people you're writing for would like. So when we write children's books, illustrators are like our partners. They've got to be able to bring the story to life. So I have about 7 children's books that are in print, and all of them I worked with illustrators on them, and I try to get feedback from children. The last book I wrote, Finding Kitty, I had to ask my daughter. I said, okay, the first kitty book I wrote was, drawn like a cat. And this illustrator wants this cat to look like a human being, a girl with shoes, with bags. What do you think? I said, please, want the human one. And I said, okay. And the illustrations were absolutely lovely. So if you're writing a children's book, you've got to be sure that the timeline will work. Don't hire an illustrator and tell him I want the illustrations in 1 week. It doesn't work like that. Creatives don't work like that. You've got to negotiate. Okay, what timeline will work for you? So don't come and say, this book, I'm launching it in a month. You've not started illustrations, you've not edited, you have not even finished proofreading it. So it's important that you've done your editorial. It must be top notch. If you want to win an award, it's got to be top notch. They can, overlook an error or two, but you've got to put your best leg forward. And sometimes I even ask, I had to ask. Sometimes because of printing course, I said, okay, can I do this illustration in black and white line? No, please, I want it in color. I said, okay, you want it in color. And then sometimes there are some books that must be in line drawings. A lot of us have read the Wimpy Kid book series, the Doctor. Line drawings work perfectly for them. And then if you're writing for an older group of children, if you're writing for a child that is between 3 and maybe 9, it's got to be color. You can't cut cost there. It's got to be in color. Something that's glossy, attractive. Sometimes children might not even the tiny 1 year old who can't read the text can read the pictures. Oh, there's a baby girl here. That's the big brother. That's mommy and daddy. Oh, they've got a dog. I want a dog. He has not read the story, but he's reading the illustration. So it's important that that illustration speaks to the audience that we're writing for. For older children, preteens, sometimes they look at illustrations. Oh, baby book is a baby book, and they want something a bit more mature. So if you've looked at books, Famous Five, Secret Seven, you find that there are line diagrams, and that works for that age. That's perfect. Usually from the age of 10, they are not worried about whether it's in color or not. So that's also important. So we've talked about why you write. So all of us, we need to sit back and actually ask ourselves, why are we writing? Who are we writing for? Who and then apart from who I'm writing for, if you're writing for children, you're also writing for mothers and fathers because they are the ones that are paying the bills. How do I want to write? How? There's so many formats available now for writing. There are books in ebook format, books in print, books in audio books. In fact, several years ago, about 8 years ago, I was marketing one of my books. I was like, "Oh, can I have it in audio?" I was like, please calm down, calm down, calm down. Let's sell the print first. And then audiobooks are a big issue now. So I've had to sit back and say, okay, that thing you ran away from, you've got to think about it seriously now. So I've got some of my books in audio as well. So you can nobody can actually tell you how to write or what format to use. You can use what works for you. I've got books in print, I've got ebooks, I've got audiobooks. So you decide what works for you, but you also want what can reach the largest number of audience, largest number of people. What do Nigerians like? Nigerians are reading ebooks. COVID made us not even want to touch anything. Don't touch my pen. Don't touch. So during COVID, a lot of us said, these prints will not work because bookshops are short. You can't do any active publicity thing in person. So ebooks became a hit for all of us, and it has stayed a hit. And then all of these formats have pros and cons. When your book is in ebook format and it's not encrypted. It's in an easy format like a PDF, and you're not sure of what platform you're loading it on. You're at risk of copyright violations. So you choose your format. What format works for the target audience that I'm writing for? That's important. And then what to write. How do you know what to write? How do your stories come to you? I know people that are expert at nonfiction, and they can't please. I don't even want to think about it. I want to monetize what I know. I have an awesome mentor that it's a guru in book marketing, and all she does is nonfiction. And I just know this, and I want to put it down in paper. And Mecca Nobis the Dawn is an expert in nonfiction as well. In fact, I've read his books; they are awesome. So you find that that's his niche, that's his flair. He's great at it. Um, I'm more into fiction, but I need to pass across what I've learned on my writing journey. So I'm getting into nonfiction in my own little way. So this book, How to Write an Award-Winning Manuscript, is my first nonfiction book, and it's got a workbook. So you read it and you think about it. So what to write? How do you decide what to write? All of this is in that book. What genre do I want to write in? What niche, what group of people am I targeting? This particular book is targeting writers who have, or poets in any format, in any genre. I I just want to share my experience in the writing journey. So, what to write? A lot of people write what they are comfortable writing, and I think that's me. I like to write what I'm comfortable writing. But sometimes you get a nudge to step outside your comfort zone because there are things you know, there are stories in you that might not come within your comfort zone. So, in fact, in the book, I quoted an author who says, write what you're uncomfortable talking about, write what you're not comfortable with. Just write, those things you can't say in person, put it down. And so that's her view that you should be able to say in a book the things you cannot say in person. And then that brings us to another thing. How are you writing? Are you writing with your identity? All my books are written with my name on it. And I feel that if I ever had to venture deeply out of my comfort zone, outside the box, to topics I'm uncomfortable, totally uncomfortable talking about, I might have to use a pen name and just be incognito while I say those things that I'm not comfortable saying. And that's allowed. You're allowed to use a pen name when you just want to write something and not let people know it is you. And some authors who have achieved some level of success in some areas or in some genres would feel a bit uncomfortable stepping outside of that genre. If they've had bestseller experiences or bestseller reviews and all of that, and then they want to go from um, a fiction writer to a non-fiction writer, or they want to go from literary fiction to speculative fiction, and they're like, how will people take this? Can I just use a pseudonym? Can I use can I use a pen name to do this while I experiment with this genre? And if they gain some degree of success in that genre, they can come back and say, "Oh yeah, actually, I wrote that book. That was my pseudonym." And at that point, they're happy to take ownership of that work. So people can use pen names. So if you're here and there's a book inside of you that needs to be written and you're worried, how will I face rejection? How will I face criticism? How will people be asking me, when did I learn to write? When did all this one start? I thought you said you were a doctor. I thought you were an engineer. Why are you writing picture book and all of that? And you truly just want to experiment and not and not take immediate ownership for that work. You can use a pen name. And then sometimes a lot of writers actually do what we call ghost writing for others. So someone can walk up to you and say, okay, I'd like to do my biography. I'm busy, I'm a business mogul, I'm a politician. I just want to put my experience down. Can you do a series of interviews? And I'm not good with words, just let me talk to you about my life experience. Help me write that. And so writers charge to write that for somebody else. And we'll call that a ghost writer. When you're a ghost writer, that's exactly what you are. You're a ghost. Nobody sees you, nobody knows you, and ideally nobody should know that you wrote that book. So you're a ghost. You're not visible. You know how the widow son said, I'm unavailable. You are not, they know they see me, they cannot see you. You're a ghost. I haven't done any ghost writing. I've done a lot of editing for people, especially children. I think I have about 4 or 5 children's authors that I've helped with their books, and sometimes I get a very sketchy outline and I work on it. I develop the plot. I ask them, okay, does this resonate with you? Is this what you were trying to say? And they say that's fine. My name is not on that book. It's not ghostwriting. I can put in the copyright page, editorial services provided by blah blah blah. But I will not be on the cover of that book because the story is not mine, the plot is not mine, the idea is not mine. It's somebody else's idea. But when somebody says, write a book for me, that's a ghostwriting instruction. Usually, it's just you're just giving the carcass. And a lot of times it's not even penned down, it's more of interviews and all of that. So that's ghostwriting. That's fun to do because you're trying to it's fun, but it's hard work because you're trying to create a voice for that person based on what they have instructed you to do, and you're not visible. Another thing that I'd like to talk about is the fact that when you are writing the story, we've said it should be excellent, error free as much as possible. And depending on, if you look at that book that I've written, I listed some things that are criteria or that are features of award-winning fiction, award-winning non-fiction books, and award-worthy fiction, award-worthy non-fiction books, and award-worthy poems. If you're entering a writing contest, please, that is one place where you must follow instructions to the letter. If you look up a writing contest and they say send in your work in the body of the email, please obey. The writing must be in the body of the email. Guidelines must be followed 100%. If they say do not put your name on that manuscript, you can identify yourself with the email you've written, but on that manuscript, which you're probably submitting as an attachment, do not put your name on that work because we want the judges to read it anonymously and to judge anonymously without knowing either where you are from or what your name is or what your gender is and all of that. Please obey the guideline. If there's a deadline, a target deadline, time, usually they put the time of the day, please adhere to that deadline. Don't assume they will extend it. I remember writing one children's story, and it was I think Universal UTC. That was the time, and I didn't do my spade work, so I missed the deadline by a few hours. And then in fact, when I was staring at the screen, it was like, oh, and they said, deadline has now closed. I was like, what? But then I sat back, took a deep breath, and I told myself, well. I've actually lost nothing here. I've um, I've gotten a story out of this effort, which cannot go in for this contest, but which I've written. It's there. I can choose to publish it, I can choose to enter it for another contest if it meets the criteria for that contest. It's not it's still a win-win situation either way. And then another thing, if they've given you a theme to write on, please don't deviate. Ah, if you're marking an essay or an exam question and you ask somebody a question and they just totally went offline and wrote on something that you're actually struggling to fit into the theme for that contest, that's a problem. And a lot of people will not finish reading that work. They won't. They'll just give up after a while because they can't see the connection between what we have submitted and what we're asked to submit. So please, if you're entering for a contest, look for the theme. Some people give a very loose theme and say, okay, go in any interpret it anyhow you want to, and just give us something that is remotely connected to this theme. It can be fate. I remember I wrote a writing prompt once and it was FATE, fate. So you could go to town on it in any way you want, but let's see that theme there somehow. So that's fine. And some people will say, okay, this is a non-themed contest. Well, there's write anything you like. Go to town. Anything that is in your heart, just write and send it in. So that's fine. And another thing I'd say about how writing an award-winning manuscript is that there are two things there are several things actually you've got to read. I have gone out of my way a lot of times to read winning short stories. By the way, the Commonwealth Prize is closing on the 1st of November. So if you've got a short story you've written that you can tidy up and send in, that's fine. It's awesome. So, and there are loads and loads of contests. You can just look around, stumble on them. You can join writing groups. There are writing groups that are strictly for um, outlining submissions or calling for submissions for different things. That's a good place to look at. So I'd say read award-winning works. Don't get to a stage where you say, ah, I beg, what is it? My story was fine. Yeah. Sometimes I've read stories and I'm like, this story is a winner. This person deserved to win. I didn't see this coming. This plot was awesome. This story ended on a cliffhanger, and I'm just like, some stories, just read them and you're humbled. And you say, this writer has gone very far. It's gone far. I need to work. I need to do some work. So please, with all humility, take out time to read stories in your genre, the genre you write, or in a genre you want to write. I don't think my brain is imaginative enough for sci-fi and speculative fiction, so I'm not even sure I'm going to go there. But I respect the people that think up these um, fantasy worlds, the battles, the adventure. Once in a while, I go and read those books and I'm, wow, this is awesome. Some people are just in a world of their own. How did they even think about this thing? And there are some movies I watch and I say, they need to look at these writers again. One of them is Blacklist. I don't even understand where they get those storylines from. I love the Blacklist. And I'm like, this is a human being like me that thought of this story. So it's just amazing. So there are lots of things like that. So please read award-winning stories, or even any good writer. There are lots of people might not necessarily win an award, but they are very, very good. Read their works, and you're reading it to learn the art of writing, not necessarily to sound like them, because all of us have our own unique voice, our own authentic voice. You can never write like somebody else. You've just got to be you. Take ownership of who you are, because you are a product of your education, your family, your background, your friends, your interactions. You're a product of all the things that have happened to you or around you. And all of that shape who you are as a writer. Your goals, your targets, your vision, for your writing journey, all of that shape who you are as a writer. And so nobody can write that story inside of you like you can. But there are skills in writing that you can pick up. But what the basic thing I'd like to pass across here is, don't start off writing to sound like somebody else. Find your own authentic voice. Find the way you write best and write like that first. And then I think it was Ernest Hemingway. I quoted him in that book, and he said when he wrote Farewell to Arms that he wrote and rewrote it 50 times. So a lot of times we write, this is nonsense. We don't throw it away. Don't give up. Be resilient. You can keep it, look at it, or if you feel okay, this one is not going to see any other space but my house. That's fine. Put it aside and write something else. Write something fresh. The first full length novel that I ever wrote is sitting somewhere in a corner of this house. And I after I wrote it, initially when I wrote it, I felt, oh, this is nice, this is great. Then after as I developed in my writing, I realized that this is not the kind of book I want to show to the world. No, this is for my own perusal. And I thought to myself one day, will I ever publish this book? The title was Choices. And I said, well, it wasn't a bad story. It's just that I felt the writing was simplistic. I felt the plot lacked, it was too straightforward. You know, this kind of books that you're reading now from page one, you can already predict how it's going to end. You know how the ending is, and that's that doesn't quite sit well with a lot of readers. I like A lot of readers like suspense. They want to see a book that they are not really sure the direction that the story is going to end. That suspense, that intrigue is there. And it doesn't have to be, life is full of suspense. There are things that happen around us that we have absolutely no clue how it's going to unfold. So, a lot of readers like that kind of intrigue. So, that particular book that I wrote lacked all of that. The plot was simplistic. Characters were not deep characters. They are characters that you write and they are like deep. You keep unfolding them. You keep unfolding them, unfolding them. You see this side of him, that side of him, and you keep unfolding them. And they are relatable. Sometimes you can write a villain and people actually like the villain. Um, there are movies I've watched and the villain was so likable, and you're hoping that the police will not catch him. And then there are some villains that you just hate, and you're like, catch this guy. He's behind the door, and you're actually inside the story. Like, please do. You guys need to catch this guy. So it's like that. We've got to be able to write. I seem to be talking a lot more about fiction. Please indulge me. But if you want to hear the rest, other things, a few other things, non-fiction, poetry, and all of that, you need to get this book, How to Write an Award-Winning Manuscript. And so we've got to be able to write things that readers actually enjoy reading, something that captivates them, something that is riveting. They are just, oh, how is this going to end? And there are books I've read that I just sit and I cannot stop. I just my okay, food. All right. No, I have to finish this book tonight. I'm going to work tomorrow. 1 a.m. I'm still there trying to get to the bottom of it. I need to get to the end of this story. I need to know who this man married. Did he marry the good girl or the bad girl, the pretender or the real one, the authentic one or the or the fake? So we've got to write things that are captivating. And if we write a manuscript for a contest that is captivating, every judge that reads it will put it in one corner. If you've ever marked exam scripts and maybe you've marked the first five and they are like below average, and then you see one that actually makes sense, you're like, hey, this is awesome. Oh, we thank God. This one actually, so this teacher actually taught something to these students. you find that you might actually end up scoring that person higher than maybe they merited an 8. You end up giving them a 9 because of the below average scripts that you have read. So when you're writing for a contest, somehow your whatever you're writing, it needs to stand out. It needs to stand out. It needs to really, really stand out so that the judges see it and know that no, this is different. This is awesome. This is totally, totally, totally different. And that puts you from the bulk or the slush pile, moves you into the long list, hopefully into the short list, and hopefully to an award-winning manuscript. So so you've got to read and please write often. Write as much as you can. Some people say write every day. Depending on how busy your life is, that might not be possible, but write as often as you can. And you can create a time that 30 minutes of every day, I must write something. And if you get into a space where you're having a bit of writer's block and you're not quite sure how to navigate, and you've got to look, in this book, I listed a lot of steps to get out of writer's block. You've got to identify the cause. What's the problem? Why am I not writing? Am I stressed? Do I need a holiday? Am I going through a critical incident? Am I having challenges at work? Challenges in my relationship? Have I experienced a loss? Do I need to cut myself some slack? Do I need to just put this right into one corner for a week or two and, forget about deadlines and just breathe? Just breathe. Just say, okay, yeah, I know I should be writing, but somehow it's not working out. Or do I need something to ginger me? Do I need a prompt? Do I need a push? Do I need some feedback, something to make me write? Do I need to join a writer's group? Do I need a forum that will encourage me to write? There are several forums that will encourage me to write. There are several forums that I've joined. Some of them are everyday prompts, some of them have contests, the ones you win cash in, the ones you don't win cash in. And I just joined. It was on one of those it was in one of those groups that I heard about the poem, the haiku type of poem. I was like, okay, what's haiku again? And I researched. I said, okay, haiku, I could do this. A three-line poem, usually with that evokes imagery. Sometimes it's got something to do with the weather or with climate. It's got a syllable of 575, and I learned all that in that group. And so I actually tried my hands on that. And so experiment by all means. I wouldn't call myself a poet, but I've written poems, and I've written poems that actually ended up winning one or two contests. But I wouldn't say I'm a poet, but I write poems and I write fiction. And so experiment. Don't get so comfortable in one genre and say, okay, I will never write this. I can't do this. There's nothing like I can't. Look, nobody was born a writer or an award-winning writer. All of us learned this thing from somewhere. All we need to do is to join a writing group, free or paid one. The one I stayed in for about 3 4 years. I started off doing the free writings, and the beautiful thing about that, it was an international writing group. It was fanstory.com. The beautiful thing about it was that you get feedback. So I think as a free writer, and you give feedback as well, and you get points when you critique other people's work. The free version, I think there's a limit to what you can do. You can't enter into contests that have cash prizes and all of that. So I started off with a free, learned a few things. There were courses that were paid courses that members were hosting online that I joined. I even joined an English language course, different small things. Just enjoy the process. And then later I said, okay, let me pay. So I paid had the paid version for some years, and it was absolutely brilliant. I remember one prompt I wrote was something very exciting. Today when I read it, I just love it. And he said, write an advertisement, each of them look really excited. Make each of them look really exciting. I was like, okay, how do you advertise heaven and hell? Let it be like a housing advert. And I said, okay, this is good. And I thoroughly enjoyed writing that. And I got really amazing feedback. And somebody said, why don't you do this? I think you're advertising this one more. It was a fun prompt. It was really nice. And on that platform as well, I wrote something about war. I called it a senseless war. It was a poem, and I just wrote it in response to a prompt, probably about 5, 6 years ago. And then one day I saw something, write a poem about war and submit for a contest online. I thought, okay, I went to my portfolio, I fished out that poem, I entered it, and I won some money. I was like, okay, this is not bad. So whatever you've written, don't think it's trash. Don't think it's trash. Just keep it. An opportunity might come. And people actually thought I wrote it for that particular contest, and they didn't know this poem had written it 2, 3 years prior to that contest. So and then please store your writing somewhere safe. Flash drives can choose to malfunction. You can store them, laptops have crashed. You can store them in a Word format, send it to yourself as an email, store it in the cloud, keep it somewhere safe where you can always access it and do whatever you want to do with it. Um, about being a better writer, I've mentioned a few steps. Read award-winning books, read good writers, great writers within your genre, outside of your genre. Write, just keep writing, write, rewrite, redraft. Get feedback from your target audience if possible, your friends, your family. I remember that some of the people that pushed me to write were actually colleagues at work that would say, where is that story? Haven't you finished it? Who did that girl marry now? How did it end? I'm like, please now finish this book. Finish this story. And when I finish, why don't you publish it? I said, I should publish it. I say, yeah. And that's how I developed the confidence to write more, and publish. Um, I think I've got about 10 I've got about 10 books in print, and then associate with other writers, please, especially in your genre. I'm in a group of children's authors and illustrators, and we have seminars, we've got workshops that we invite people to talk to us on, and we showcase our work. And one day, someone brought up her book and said, "Oh, I've translated it to Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo." I was like, "Hey, okay, this is nice. Okay." So I said, "This is inspiration." I said, "Okay, how did you get translators? How did you go about it?" So I then got some of my books, I think three of my books, I translated to Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo. And if you're very nice, you can have colleagues that help you with the translation. And I ended up taking it an extra notch. I translated to French, to German, to Portuguese, and I decided that those translations I will not print because um, they are bilingual children's books. It's to a smaller niche of people who want to learn a new language. So I'll just leave them in ebook format for now until I see a demand for them to be in print. Because that's another thing. It's so hard to get print on demand books. So it's okay, let me just do 50 manuscripts, 50 books. By the time they give you the cost, it's crazy. So I've had to do large volume printing when I print, and be patient about selling them. And I'll tell you something. After I wrote Beyond the Trial, I had several copies of that book, several thousands of copies. It took a while to sell out, but it did. And when it did, I went back to the drawing board, corrected all the things I needed to correct, tweaked the things I needed to tweak based on feedback I'd gotten over the years from the first edition of that book. So I made it a better book. Content virtually the same, just tidying up point of view errors that were, here and there, adding a bit more description in the setting, and then I republished, and it was lovely. And interestingly, I'll say, please don't give up on your work. Don't. because after I did that, I sent samples to several universities and I said, oh, would you like to use this as a literature text in your unis for your students? Most of them did not reply, but a few did. And when a few did, we haggled. When you're selling to schools, the price goes really low because they've got to be able to sell it and add their own markup as well. But they buy volume. So one day I was happily in my room and my phone rang and said, "Oh, I said wrong number." I said, "No, is that not the author of this book?" I said, "Okay, sorry, it's me." Oh. And it's okay. Can you supply 600 copies of this? Well, I was like, what? 600 copies, right? We're on it. And the next day, you need to have seen me prancing about packaging the books. I sent it off. That took a while to come. Those orders took a while to come. And then the uni ended up using it for 3 sessions and they loved it and all of that. So basically, if you've written a book, get feedback and take feedback or criticism nicely. Don't let it deter you. If you have the opportunity to reprint when your first edition is out, please go ahead, effect whatever corrections you need to. If it's not in print and it's an ebook, it's even easier to go back and correct. So go back, you know, tweak it a bit and stay visible. Anything can happen. Recently, people were ordering you the copies of the Yoruba translation of one of my picture books from Seller, and I was like, okay, right, this is sweet, and that was particularly shocking for me because I wasn't doing any active promotion on that book, so it was amazing and it was so encouraging. So I'd like you to um, make up your mind that if there's a book you want to write, let's write it. Don't think, oh, what do I know? What can I write? We all started somewhere. Please write that book. Um, you can get a copy of this book, read it, expound on it, get the workbook. It's going for a discount right now, and I've slashed the price in half. Read it, take notes, think about it. What can I write? Well, it might be that, okay, I don't want to write, but I know someone around me who would like to write. And you can send a link to that person. Can you get this book? I can pay for it for you. Just read it. Let's get this book out. I know lots of people that have told me, oh, I've started books, I have ideas for writing, but I just don't feel I can do it. Nobody was born an award winning writer. You can do it. What do awards do for you? When you won one contest, even if you did not win, they put your name in the long list. You will make noise about it. My book was in the long list for this. So I had nominations for the Association of Nigerian Authors Literary Prize 2020 in two categories. My books were nominated for prose fiction, and one other book was nominated for children's fiction. For me, that was, and my children's fiction book was the last three, first three, last three. So it was a finalist. So that for me was this thing that you're scribbling in the early hours of the morning. People actually like it, and that encouraged me, that validated me, that put me out there. And I was sent this pink one, the one that has award winner on it, and that was absolutely amazing. So being able to say this was an award winner or this was nominated for this award, or it gives you some credibility. And sometimes it opens doors. It opens doors for speaking engagements. Emeka Novis has won several awards, so he knows. And people say, he knows what he's doing. So it opens all sorts of doors. Sometime this year, I got an email and they said, "Oh, can you write for an anthology? This is the theme for this anthology, and we're going to pay you for it." And I was like, "Okay." And I think I got that invitation because I'd done a short story competition at the International Human Rights Arts Festival, and my short story did not win, but at least it made the short list. So that opens doors. Might not be immediately, and then one of my books got recognized by the United Nations uh, for exploring SDG 5, which is gender equality. At the time I was writing this book, there was nothing in my head about United Nations, SDG, nothing. I was just writing a story that I titled Rude Awakening, and it was just amazing. And that got me to be on the panel for at the Nigerian International Book Fair, and that was just awesome. It was a good experience, good time to network, to collaborate. So, in summary, to write an award-winning manuscript is simple. Do your best, uh, the best that you can do with the story idea that you have. Seek feedback and use the feedback constructively. And and also don't just read people's stories. Read books about writing. I've got books on how to write excellent dialogue, how to show and not tell, how to write characters that readers will not forget, how to. Oh, there are lots of how to books. There are small books, or you can pick up a point or two. Sin and sin. Also, there are so many books. They you can read some of them. Some you might agree with, some you may not agree with, and then it's just awesome because you will pick one or two things from those books. And another thing I'd like to say is um, don't be afraid to ask for feedback. I submitted one of my books for readers' favorites. It's an online international thingy that authors submit books to. Their time, they rate the book in whether it's 4 star, 5 star. They rate the book, and then they can give you feedback. So I got feedback from that about Beyond the Trial, and that feedback helped me. Even if you can't go back to tweak your book, fine. It can help you in subsequent books that you write. And so the feedback I got from readers' favorite helped me in subsequent books that I wrote, even though they gave me a 5 star rating for that book. But I still liked the comments that came with it because he helped me to do better, to write better. So we must never get to a stage in life where we say, "Oh, I know it all. I've done it all. There's no room for improvement. There's nothing else I can say." As long as there is life, we can always do better. And writing is your books are a legacy. There's something you can read, you can leave behind when we all move on to eternity that people will see. I remember one of my classmates bought some copies of my book, and when he showed the daughter was like, "Oh, you know a celebrity." I was like, "Hey, yes." So, so there's this feeling that um, there's expertise that is attributed to you when you've written a good work. There's a feeling of credibility that you have about the topic you've written, and then sometimes when we write, like the themes that I explored in my book, one of my books, which was Erase Reproach, I looked at peer pressure, I looked at teenage pregnancy, I looked at family upheaval. Sometimes I get invited for um, workshops that are related to the themes in those books. So I'm not talking about the book, but I'm talking about the theme that I wrote something about. So I've written about peer pressure, and people will call me, "Oh, Chigozie, please, can you come and talk with teenagers about peer pressure?" And that's fine. That's absolutely fine because that opens a door for you to come in. And I've had books can open your doors for you to interact with teenagers, and you'll be so shocked at the amount of teenagers, young minds that need nurture, um, that need someone to talk to, that need counsel, that need a mentor, and you just you'll just feel like you wish you could be everywhere. I've had my book. open up doors for me to talk in public schools. And usually we ask the children to write anonymous questions or comments, and some of the things they write are personal and they are heartbreaking. And sometimes, because they need their privacy, I just tell the school, please, can you make sure that your counseling department is up and doing, that they can actually, even if you don't pinpoint who wrote this, gather them as a group periodically and just talk to them in a non-judgmental way about the theme, about what we are talking about peer pressure, how it's affected their lives, how it's affected their families. Some My book Erase Reproach talks about family upheaval. Shadows from the Past explored domestic violence, and it talks about the psychological effects that children who have grown up in or witness abuse in their homes, what it does to them as adults. And I never witnessed that, but when I was writing that story, it was almost as if I was the characters were in my head telling me, "Yeah, talk about us," and I talked about how it affected their marriages and how they had to confront those demons, those issues that they faced in childhood, and that paved the way for their relationships to be healed. And for me, that's absolutely awesome. So it's good to win an award, but more importantly, for me and for a lot of people, it's also about impacting lives. Erase Reproach talked about a girl who had a child out of wedlock as a teenager, and how she picked up her life and, moved on, and had a second chance at love and marriage. And I was so emotional when someone walked up to me, a colleague at work, and said, "I bought 5 of your books and I gave some out, and I gave one to a single mother." And when she read this book, she said, "This story was almost like me." And that it gave her the courage to believe that she could pick up her life again. It gave her the courage to believe, oh, I can get married despite the mistakes I've made in the past. And she did get married. And my colleague said, "Oh, I'm telling you this to encourage you that you've written a book, but it's touching lives. And I just wanted you to know that." So, outside of winning an award, outside of getting recognition, it's also important to impact lives. So that's really what it's about at the end of the day. It's not about um, the noise that comes with an award, the doors that it opens. That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. But it's also about the lives that we affect, the generations that we touch, the legacy I will leave behind. So I'll encourage you to please get copies of this book on seller. Read it and don't feel that you cannot write. I can tell you for real that all of us were not born writers. We learned. I didn't read creative writing, but we have improved my skills. I've improved my skills by attending courses, some of them free, some of them paid, interacting with people, reading, and that has helped me greatly. So I'll encourage you to do the same, and please write. Please go ahead and write, and I'm happy to take questions as I'm happy to take questions as we go along. And Emeka, are there any questions you'd like me to attend to? Um, I can't see the chat.
Okay,
Are there any
guys.
questions you
Yeah,
think
thank you so
I
much
should
for the
address?
presentation. Yeah, I'm waiting for people to ask questions in the comment section. So, guys, if there are questions you would like to ask, please throw your questions in the comment section so that she can answer any question whatsoever. The questions pop up on the screen. I will put it up on the screen so that they can you can
Okay.
answer. All right, guys. Please, everyone. Sorry if I'm using the word guys. I mean, the videos don't like the word guys actually. So if there are questions, please drop your question now in the comment section so that she can answer the questions right away. All right. Questions, 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 please. Are there questions? Not seen any question yet. If there are no questions, maybe we can bring the session to a close for tonight.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, but I think some people may be typing their questions. Let me see if
Okay.
they are. Okay, there's a question now. Somebody is asking, uh, how do you come about what to write? Hello, Ma. Did you hear what I asked you? Somebody is asking, is on the screen. Ibrahim is asking, how do you come about what to write?
Yes, I can see that. Thank you, Badebo. He said, "How do you come about what to write?" Um, Stories, sometimes conversations that I have with people or things that I witness around me sometimes push me or give me a nudge about what to write. Rude Awakening was a story about a widow who people turned their backs on the family, the husband's family. And I remember clearly as a medical student in the consulting room of our surgeon while waiting, there was a nurse and she was talking with someone and she just explained how badly she felt treated by her husband. That story never left me. But that's not the only bad story that I've heard about widowhood. So I just felt that people don't talk enough about this. There are so many widows who've gone through things. If I remember one of my patients walking up to me and saying, "Look, doctor, this story about this widow was my story. I can't even begin to tell you what I went through, how abandoned I felt. I had three children under 10, and nobody asked me how I was coping. Nobody cared about the uncompleted building my husband left. Everybody took a walk. And I didn't know her. I didn't know her story at the time I was writing this book. And every year she'll order copies of Beyond the Trial. Yeah, it was Beyond the Trial. I said, okay, I have an NGO for widows, and I want to give it out. So I write about things that are happening around me. Sometimes it might be a picture. I'll give you an instance. I was passing by Sabo one day and I saw a madman. Looked quite distinguished, but you could tell that there was something wrong with him. And I could tell he was mentally challenged. And someone sweeping the road was literally sweeping at him, and he just looked at the lady and he walked away. That picture hasn't left me. And I feel like I'm going to actually write something that inculcates that, where possibly the man is actually just grieving and facing a hard time. And it's not like he's totally out of the loop. So things around me tell me what to write. And sometimes I may see a prompt, like I said. And in this book, I've got writing prompts. I put some about 7 or 10 writing prompts at the back of the book for fiction, about 14 writing prompts for poems, and about 5 for nonfiction. So I've got prompts. When you're not sure what to write, you can even go online writing prompts. There are free ones. You can even get 300 free writing prompts, and you can look at it and say, okay, which story resonates with me? What do I really want to write about? And you can take it from there. Start off with a writing prompt. Write something, and say, okay, right, okay, and then look at it. Okay, that's nice. Try something else. You can even get a group of friends. Hey guys, oh sorry, Rebecca says people don't like that. Okay, people, let's write this story. Let's see what we can come up with. Let's task our imaginations. Let's just think up something along this line and see. And that's a good place to start. And if we've got young children, children are very imaginative. Please encourage them to write something about that. Ah. Okay, Chukwu says, "What can someone who has so many great ideas to write about? What do you do when you don't have the time? You can hire a ghostwriter, or you can take it one idea at a time. Just start off with one, and then start off with one. Create time. There are all sorts of small time management techniques. I found that I had a very busy schedule and young children to take care of. So I struggled a bit with timing. But I found out that the only time I had some bit of peace and quiet was in the early hours of the morning when I had a calm head before I start off the day. So I used to wake up maybe 3 a.m., 4 a.m., write for about 1 hour, go back to bed, calm my head down, and jump up at 6 and start getting everybody ready for school. So that was how I started writing. It was a bit of a sacrifice, but or sometimes it's in the evening. I am a morning person, so find what time suits you. I write best in the mornings. If I don't get anything done in the morning, it's hard to do it in the day for the rest of the day. So if you're an evening person, you come back, you can even use it to unwind. For me, because I like doing it, it didn't feel like stress for me. It didn't feel like hard work. You can just unwind. Okay, let me write this prompt. Let me just do 30 minutes. Sometimes when I do 30 minutes, feel like, oh, let me extend it to 1 hour, and then gradually you pick up. Most of my writing I did when I did a long distance posting where I used to be in traffic for 3 hours, 3 hours to go, 3 hours to come. So I couldn't drive for that period. So I had someone take me to work and bring me back. So during that posting, I had a work bag with all my examination tools, my word coats, and all that. And then I had a writing bag. And in my writing bag, I had, something to write with. So while I'm in traffic, I just write. And when I'm tired, I put it back. So a lot of my stories in Beyond the Trial I actually wrote during that time. And I found I was too busy to type them. So I found a lady. First of all, I had encouragement from a friend who said, I'll type for you. Until she got pregnant with twins. I said, it's a lie, you cannot type this thing. Leave it. Thank you. So I've been blessed with cheerleaders who didn't let me give up on this dream. And I said, okay, don't worry, stop typing. I'm going to find a typist. And I got this lady, and she's been awesome. She said, don't worry about my intellectual property. Your stories are safe with me. And then she'll type, she'll email them to me. Now we're doing remote typing. When I write, I'm not good with typing or dictating to the phone. When I write, she said, oh, just snap it and send. So I snap all the pages I sent to her. She types, she emails them to me, and that works for us. And I send her her money. So we're doing remote work now. So that works. So it's a bit about time management. It's a bit about creating the time, and you can also pay someone to write for you, and you can take one idea at a time. Take it at a time, one idea at a time. Yeah. An ebook can be as long as you want it to be, but I would say like children's books are pretty small, usually 32 pages. Amazon will say 32 minimum. If you're writing for adults, oh, it can be any length really, 40 pages, 60 pages, depending on on what you're writing about. My novellas usually were about 60 pages each or thereabouts. One was 80. When I put them together in Beyond the Trial, I had 212 pages. But I'm, I can't, I don't know how people do 400 and 500 pages of novels. So I can read it, too, but I can't write it because after a while, even me, I get anxious. Please let this story end. It's getting too long. So I'm not able to do part one, part two, part three, like films. So the story for me, the story shouldn't be too long, but nobody can tell you how long it should be really. A short story can be 2,000 words, 5,000 words. An ebook minimum I'd say should be about 36, 40 pages minimum. But that's about, also depends on your target audience as well. But yeah, that's fine. Thank you so much, Bolaji. Thank you for your question. Oh, definitely. You can finish a non. See, next month, November, is what they call the National Novel Writing Month. And the target, I think, is 50,000 words during the month. So sometimes they call it NaNoWriMo. People come together as a writing group, accountability partners, they're encouraging each other. Let's write, let's write, let's write. And they want a book out, the first draft of a book. They want to see if they can write the first draft of a book in a month. And a lot of people do it, a lot of people can do it. And then when you've done the first draft, you can take the remaining 2 months to edit. Absolutely. You can complete a non-fiction book within 3 months. You can also complete a fiction book within 3 months. You can. Well, it's got to be focused. But like I said, don't be in a hurry. There's a quote in my How to Write Award-winning books that says that the first draft of a book, you've just written it to yourself. After you've written the first draft, you've got to give yourself time to read, rewrite, edit, and give other people to look at it for you. But definitely 3 months is definitely doable. Yeah. I wrote my first book at 6 years old. It was titled Lydiana. It was about a little girl called Lydiana. That's when I wrote my first book. Uh, you will know when you've improved, to be honest. If I bring the first novel I wrote, choices, I read it, even me, I will laugh. I say, Chigozie, try though. This one needs to be worked. But it's a work in progress. Keep writing. That's why I said if you can get into a group, get feedback on your writing. Um, like when I was in Fun Story, people say things like, "Oh, I really like this story, but there wasn't enough dialogue. I wish she had said something to her father about the way she was feeling." Or somebody will say, I think you didn't punish this villain enough. So you're getting feedback. You will know when you're writing better. I think at the beginning of this year, I wrote some short stories, and they were for a specific theme, for a publisher on a specific theme. The theme, I did not like it because I didn't feel it was exciting enough. But we had a seminar, we talked about it, and I said, okay, this thing is a bit health related. Chigozie, do find a way to write something about it. And then you can take a theme that is uninteresting and make it interesting. And that's basically what I did in those. I actually submitted 3 stories. They chose two that they will publish, and I I think that story was my first crime story. I love watching crime movies, and it would be a disservice if I finish spending all the hours of my life that I spent watching those films and I don't write a crime thriller, crime scene investigation. SWAT is a serious issue. So I then said, okay, this thing that is largely uninteresting, how do I make it interesting? So I wrote my first crime story. I wrote Murder at the, I don't want to give away the theme, Murder at the dash site. And then so I brought in a crime. There was a ritual killing at a site and all of that. So it was in that theme, but I took it, from another angle, and I actually had a lot of fun writing it. So by the time I finished those short stories, I told myself, you're getting better. So I haven't reached where I need to be. I'm still working. but I think I'm getting better. You will know, you will definitely know from feedback, from the way the story sounds. I read one short story I wrote around COVID, and I'm like, okay, did you actually write this? Because I found myself describing settings better and actually talking about what people could smell, what they could hear, what they could feel, sounds. You got to write things that talk about the five senses, that kind of thing. I say, Chigozie, try it here. I've not finished that story. But even for me, I could identify that I was doing better. So sometimes if you look at both stories, you look at what you wrote in the past and what you've written now, you can tell that you've definitely improved from outside feedback as well. Thank you, Chizoba. Are there writing clubs one can join in Nigeria? Um, there are many. There are Facebook groups. There are. I belong to the association. I don't know what genre you write for, but I'm in a lot of groups on online Facebook. I've attended creative writing courses being run by authors in my genre, and sometimes these opportunities just pop up. I belong to Association of Children Book Authors and Illustrators in Nigeria, and then we have a review club within us. So we look at each other's work and we're trying to see how we can help one another develop our stories. You have wonderful ideas. Please write. Sometimes people ask me. I had a young lady send me a message that, please, can you look at these three stories I've written? They were children's stories. I said, okay, fine. So I looked at it. I liked two. I told her, oh, these two I like, and they're environmental themed stories. I said, oh, I love these two. This one, not quite feeling it. And she said, oh, yes, actually, I'm not feeling it as well. So you can get feedback. Go online, look for writing clubs. You can check out writing clubs both in Nigeria, outside of Nigeria. There's Wattpad, there's Media.com. There are so many. There are lots and lots of opportunities both within and outside Nigeria. How do you develop? You've got your wonderful ideas. Please write them down. I remember waking up from sleep some years ago, and in my head, I woke up telling myself that I had this beautiful idea of a story that was going to be a bestseller. Ah, I regret to announce that I did not write it down. And after a while, I couldn't remember this beautiful idea. And it still pains me till today because I don't know if it was something God was helping me to move the work forward, and I'd forgotten. I do hope that somehow it has come back in some of the stories I've written since then. But please write your ideas down. Pick one of them that and develop it, develop the plot, write it, tweak it, come back to it, and all of that. All of us are learning the art. Me, I'm learning. I'm still learning. Okay. Uh, Hello, Florence. You've got ideas of stories to write, but don't know where and how to start from. I've mentioned a few options. A lot of young people, but you've got to look at what works for you. There's media.com. People write things and put it out there. There's funstory.com. Go on Facebook, go on Instagram. Just type writing groups, Nigerian writing groups, fiction writing groups. Look at it. And then be conscious of intellectual property. Don't put out your work out there like that. Go slowly. I've had stories I just put out. I can't remember which story it was. I think it was Rude Awakening. I put the first chapter of Rude Awakening up on Fan Story. I got lots of feedback. Blah, blah. I put up the second chapter, got other feedback, and after I said, okay, it's enough. Let me go and do my work. And then I went back, took it all out, and then wrote it properly. Is a book. The whole book was not out there, so that you will not write and one day you see your book somewhere, or you might see it on TV and someone has stolen the idea. So please, but the idea of people stealing your work shouldn't stop you from writing. Please don't let that hinder you. Where to start? Start from where you are. Write what you can. Seek feedback from people around you. Find a few writing groups. I actually connected online on Facebook with Simi Sola Ogunyika. She's absolutely fabulous. She's a professor of creative writing in the US now. At the time I connected with her, it was a writing group on Facebook, and I think both of us were the only Nigerians there. The other people were either Americans or Greeks, different nationalities, and we read each other's works and we gave each other feedback, and that's how I connected with her. So when she started doing a creative writing workshop, I got on board. It was a paid workshop. I paid, I joined, I did her assignments, I did the classes, I got feedback from her. And she said, okay, well done, and it was absolutely brilliant. She gave us assignments, you had to submit every week and all of that. So I started like that. I started getting better. And when someone who has written, I joined this class after publishing Beyond the Trial. So there's no end to learning. I didn't tell myself I published one book. Okay, people say it's nice. It has won one or two awards. I'll stop learning. No. I still humbled myself, joined. I learned and was very fulfilling. There's no correct or wrong word to use to write a story, my sweet Florence. Please write it anyhow. Write it anyhow. There's even a lot of talk now about writing in our native languages. People are being encouraged to write. Forget about whether the word is the correct one to use or not. Just write. Write it first. By the time it gets to an editor, the editor will tell you whether it's the right word to use or not. But there's no right or wrong word. Please get writing. I'll be rooting for you. Rooting for you. Oh, thank you, Bolaji, for your feedback. Thank you, the Dawn, for having me. Dawn is an inspiration. Oh. There are many of us that is inspiring. If you've not read his book, your book must will sell. Need to get that book. He woke me up. Well done, everybody.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ma. I think that's the last question for today. Yeah, another question.
Yeah.
You've done 1 hour 33 minutes. I mean, Ma, your live stream is I think is one of the longest live streams so far I've ever held, and it shows the fact that people are quite keenly interested
Oh dear.
in the message of today. Thank you so much. I don't think there are other questions, and you have been able to do great justice to the
Wow.
questions that we have asked. Thank you so much. Please, guys, go ahead and
That's fine.
connect with Chigozie Badoa and follow her on her timeline. Connect with what she's doing, and you will be blessed. Thank you, and thank you. So your final words, please, as we bring the curtain to a close tonight.
Everybody listen is please get that book out there. Please write something. Don't stop writing. I've got all sorts of notebooks. Sometimes I stumble on them and I'm like, okay, when did I write this? I actually have a story on Parosia magazine online, and I'm like, when did I write this one again? Can I remember? So please, by all means, please keep writing, and keep looking for avenues to learn courses, free courses. There's a children's picture book summit I attended. I had a full thick cover notebook, page full, and it was free. He said it was amazing. I've bought Emeka's courses. I've attended quite a lot of them. I've got videos. I still bought one today. Oh. The one that he promoted today, I bought it, and I'm gonna sit down and watch those 50 videos. So there's no end to learning. If there's anything that'll give me great pleasure today is to find out in the next 3 to 6 months that people attended this our live book chat and they were inspired to write, and they wrote, they published, and that if that is what I get out of this, I'll be so chuffed. And somebody says, oh, I edited one story, I put it in one contest, and I actually won. I was shortlisted. I was in the long list. Wow, that will be just brilliant. That will be a lot of encouragement for me. So please go out there, write that story, bring that idea to life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ma, for this great opportunity to have been on this live stream. And thank you to
Thank you,
everybody
the
who tuned in. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you for being part of the session, for the questions. and for the very clear and concise teaching that was done tonight. So all we are saying is just for you to go and practice, 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 and practice. All right. The
Yeah.
more you practice, the more you become better at what you do, the more that you can have great results. Even I am still reading and practicing every blessed day. Every blessed day, I'm practicing every blessed day. Thank you very much. And from me here in the city of Lagos to every one of you that joined in, it's me saying good night and God bless you.
Good night.